You can upload image assets and manage them for multiple concurrent campaigns with Owlbear Rodeo. Here's how. We'll walk you through understanding assets, uploading and categorizing assets, using folders and collections, and using tags and search. Before you start, you'll need to open a room in your Owlbear Rodeo account. Firstly, let's understand how assets relate to one another and to the image layers available in Owlbear Rodeo's canvas. You can upload many different images to your cloud storage, including the static and animated image file formats listed here on the screen, which you can then add into any scene that you create. A scene shows a location where something is happening. It could be a town where the player characters are resting and restocking, a new region or a specific location that they're exploring, an encounter that they are embroiled in, or even a landing page where all the relevant information that they've gathered is presented visually for reference. You can have multiple maps in a single scene, but we recommend that you create one scene for each location or encounter, just so that you can manage separate locations independently and can prep them in a private room even while your players are looking at the current scene in your shared room. Within each scene, you can add any number of images from one or more of the different asset categories, which are each associated with a layer of the canvas, shown here from the lowest on the left to the highest on the right. These are maps, props, mounts, characters, attachments, and notes. You can create folders in any of these categories to gather their image assets in whatever grouping you find useful, and you can also create folders to organize your scenes. All of these scenes and categories are bundled together into a default collection, which encompasses everything that you need to run a campaign. You can also create and name additional collections, each of which provides its own set of scenes and asset categories. This allows you to keep different campaigns entirely separate from one another, and you can also keep different playthroughs of the same campaign separate, for example if you're running the same adventure for multiple groups of players. When you are looking through your assets, it also limits your view to the contents of the currently selected collection, cutting down on the visual clutter of irrelevant items and removing the need to create complex subfolder structures to manage unrelated assets. That concludes this high-level view of assets, the tools provided to organize them, and their relationship to one another. Next, let's take a look at uploading and categorizing assets so that we can organize the raw materials of our campaign. When you create a new Owlbear Rodeo account and open a room, your asset manager will initially be empty, but you'll be directed to the Add button in the top right corner. First, I'm going to install a starter set into my account. I can see the scene packs and can filter them by creator with the large buttons on the right-hand side. The basic maps show me these seamless tileable images. I can select one or a range of these scenes and then confirm. Immediately you can see them appear in the Scenes category, and they will also be available in the Asset dock under the Scenes tab. You can follow that same installation process for the other starter sets for the maps, props, characters, attachments, and notes categories, which I'm doing now. Now that we have the starter sets installed, let's add our own images. We'll return to the Add popover and select New to open this bulk importer, where you can add one or many image files and select the default settings for all of them at once. If you make an asset hidden by default, then each time you drag that asset from the dock into your scene, it will initially be invisible to players until you reveal it. Likewise, assets that are locked by default work well for fixed structures or other static items that you don't want to accidentally move, like maps. When the size control is set to auto, the importer looks for scaling clues in each asset's file name, like 1x1 or 140 dpi, and will use that information. Otherwise, it uses a probability algorithm to determine the most likely scale for the image according to its pixel dimensions. You can also scale all the assets to a fixed resolution or a fixed number of columns or rows. The default text setting allows you to choose between having an empty token label by default, for the label to copy the image's file name with any scaling clues removed, or for you to add a custom name label to the tokens being imported. The fastest way to import an asset is to drag and drop an image file onto a scene that's open. I'll grab these tokens from my computer's file storage and drag them directly over the scene. You can see the wheel selector has appeared, and I choose which layer of the scene these tokens will inhabit. The tokens appear immediately at a scale that's derived from their file names or their dimensions, and I can see them appearing now in the dock and in my asset manager. Note that the most recent settings used in the bulk importer are applied to any assets that are dragged and dropped into your scene. If you accidentally upload images into the wrong category, it's simple to select them in the Asset Manager and then drag and drop them onto the correct category tab together, which will move them all to that new category. Let's take a look at using folders and collections to subdivide our assets further and to manage different types of images. Within the Asset Manager, you can create a new folder in any of the category tabs as well as in the Scenes tab. You can give the folder a name and a colour and see it appear in that tab. There are two ways to add assets into a folder. You can either select them with the mouse and drag them into that folder, or you can select those assets and use the Move To function, because its list of destinations will show you every folder that's within a category. If you have accidentally dropped an asset into a folder, the quickest way to move it back is to open the folder in the Asset Manager, find the asset, and drag it up to the top bar where the return arrow will become highlighted. This will drop it back in the Parent tab. Folders appear in your asset dock with an abbreviated name, and they can be expanded to see their contents there, or collapsed to hide their contents with a single click. Each asset folder can also be dragged into your scene and will give you one copy of every item that's within that folder. You also have a delete function, although that will permanently remove the folder and all the items it contains from your cloud storage, so use that with caution and always observe the warning. Okay, let's look into how to create and use collections. In the initial section of this video, we showed how each collection has its own set of independent scenes and asset categories. In the top left corner of the Asset Manager, there's a small area labelled Collections that has a single item named Default. This is the built-in collection that can never be deleted and into which all your scenes and assets are stored until you create your first custom collection. So I'll click on the plus button there to make a new custom collection called Medieval Fantasy. To populate that collection, I can simply use the Move To function because now I have the option of changing the destination collection and not just the category or folder. I can also drag and drop directly into a collection. So I'll do the same to organise all my other assets. Now I can switch between the default and custom collections with their named buttons in the top left of the Asset Manager, and you can see that the contents of the currently selected tab immediately updates to reflect what each collection contains. All my ancient sci-fi assets are separate, and likewise all my medieval fantasy assets, but all my common or universally useful assets are still in my default collection. You can also switch between collections on the fly from the named button on the left-hand end of the asset dock. This makes it easy for you to access the right collection for a specific setting, a specific adventure, or a specific group of players, and each of your rooms will remember the most recent collection used there. If I want to sort my collections, I can use the three-dot button in the Collections area of the Asset Manager to organise them by creation date, by name, or by colour. I can also choose Manage Collections, which allows me to rename, recolour, or delete any of my custom collections. Note that the delete function will permanently remove the collection and all the items it contains from your cloud storage. Finally, let's take a look at how asset tags work, how we can search a whole account, and how to search by a particular tag. Within your Asset Manager, you can sort all assets by creation date or by name. In the left-hand navbar, I have lots of new tags which act as custom search filters within the current asset category when you click on them. For example, clicking Rebels shows only the character assets with that tag found in every collection. When a tag is active, reselecting any of the collections will cancel the tag and show all the assets in just this category. The tags also interact with the Asset Dock search bar, shown when you open the search bar with Ctrl-K or by clicking on the magnifier icon there, automatically creating previews of up to 24 of the assets in each tag. These previews each show a category icon in the lower right corners, indicating to which layer they belong. Simply dragging any of these into your scene quickly adds your most often used assets without having to search them by name. For example, I have my heroes right here. And I can also add frequently used props and attachments, like this shield. Once I've finished with the search bar, I can toggle it off with Ctrl-K again, or by clicking on the magnifier icon. You can use tags in the dock search field to get the same preview of up to 24 assets that match all of the selected tags as a custom search. This is very useful when you can't remember the name or the location of an asset, but you do recall what tags it has. Returning to the Asset Manager, these tags can also be used to filter the global search function by choosing from the drop-down list, which then returns only the assets that have the selected tags from any category in any collection. Note that the category tabs have disappeared from the top bar while this search is active, but each asset shows in which category it belongs via the icon in its top right corner. If I want to know in which collection one of these assets is stored, I can right-click on it and choose Show in Enclosing Folder, which shows me that it's in my default collection. To create a tag, simply click on the plus button in the tag section and choose a name and colour for it. To sort them, click on the three-dot button there and choose between the three options. To organise your tags, click on Manage Tags there. Note that deleting a tag will remove it from all its assets, but it will not remove any images or scene data from your account, unlike deleting a folder or a collection that contains assets. The built-in Favourites tag, shown as a red heart symbol, is unique in that it's always available and cannot be deleted. You can freely tag images as favourites and later remove that tag, so it offers a very flexible way to have multiple images from different collections and different categories right at your fingertips in-game. To add or remove a tag on an asset, click on the tags icon in its top left corner and select one or more tags from the list. You can select multiple assets and apply the same tags to all of them at once. You can see that each tag on an asset adds a small coloured icon in that corner, so it's obvious when an asset has one or more tags, or none. You can now see how categories, folders, collections and tags provide a comprehensive set of tools to help you manage all your assets for multiple games. To learn more about Owlbear Rodeo, subscribe on YouTube, or click another video to keep watching.